started aloha at least. Okay, so you have all these slots and each one is a fixed time. So there is an assumption that everybody knows exactly when a slot starts and when a slot ends. Okay. So if you are, let's say, you are node number 1. Okay. So what you do is that you're node number 1 and you get data to send. Okay. You get data to send. You cannot send until the slot starts. So let's say you got the data sometime here. You wait for the next slot to start. That is here, and then you send the data. Okay. And if you send the data, let's shorten this. So if you're node 1 and you have this data that you sent, and after you send it, there's two possibilities. Nobody else sends the data in the same slot, so there's a fixed slot of time. And the second one is that somebody else does send data. So in which case there's a collision. Okay, so let's take the good case. So nobody else sends data. Okay. So in that case, you just keep sending. Okay. So everything is good. Everything is good. Keep sending. Every slot you send data, and you get the full bandwidth. Okay. However, let's say down the line here, a second node also decides to send data. Okay. So in that case, there's a collision, and nothing gets there, and you can detect it. You broadcast your radio signal, assuming kind of it doesn't have to be radio, and you're listening at the same time. If you listen and hear somebody else sending data while you are sending, you know that nobody heard anything because the two signals are mixed. Okay? So in that case, you go back to, so this is plan A, where if things are going, I just keep going. If the moment there's a collision, you go to plan B and say, I've been told that there are 3 nodes in the system. Okay, you send in the next slot with a probability of 1/3. Okay, you stop sending every slot, but because if you could try to send again, and this guy will send again, and there will be a collision again. So it's wasteful. So you say, well, I'm just going to send in the next one with a probability of 1/3. The other guy will also send with a probability 1/3, and hopefully sooner or later we will not collide. Because you're trying to avoid the overhead of figuring out a lot of things. Okay, some collisions are okay, but I'm going to slow down and hope that my data will get through. So an example of this is here, where let's say all 3 of these stations suddenly got data to send, so they all sent it in the first slot. Okay, and obviously in this slot, everybody is sending data, nothing is getting through. Okay, so everybody backed up and went into a random selection protocol where they decide to send 1 in 3 slots on average. Next slot, so this is a collision slot for C. The next slot is empty. Everybody has backed off and nobody sent data, because there's always a chance when it's random and you're sending with a certain probability that everybody decides not to send. The next slot, both 1 and 2 decided to send, and again there's a collision. So nothing went through. So they back up, and next slot, only 2 sent, just random probability, and this is good. Now 2 is done. Okay. And again, the following slot, nobody sent anything. Next slot, both 1 and 3 happened to send it, and next slot went empty, and finally, this wasn't there. Finally, there was a slot where only 1 sent it, and there was a slot only 3 sent it, and everybody's finished sending their 1 packet. So you never know. These 2 had to give 3 tries before they succeeded. The yellow had to give 4 tries before it succeeded. So the whole thing took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 slots. Okay. How many slots? So they were sort of not particularly lucky in this case. How many slots would it have taken if they were really lucky? Let's assume that the first slot is gone. They sent everything, and that's when they realized it's not just me, it's the whole world trying to send packets. So after the first slot, how many more slots would it take if things went their way randomly? It's not a trick question. 3 slots, yeah, it's quite possible if you're not unlucky. Let's say 1 sent in this, 2 sent in this, 3 sent in this, and you're done. Okay, so it depends on your luck how long a particular packet takes. So let's look at some of the properties of this protocol. The good things, if nobody else is sending, one node can keep sending. There's nothing stopping it. Only when there's a collation, then you have to get into this mess. It's highly decentralized. The only thing that's centralized is that nodes need to be in sync. Everybody needs to know when a slot starts and when it ends. They don't need to communicate and say, why don't you send in this slot and I'll send in the following one. Okay, that is actually a lot of work because you have to use the same channel to get that communication and how you're going to get that instruction across. So very decentralized and simple. The bad thing, there's a lot of wastage. When multiple nodes are sending, there's a lot of wastage. Okay? For 2 reasons. Sometimes there's collation and it's wasted. Sometimes nobody sends anything and it's wasted. 2 ways to waste the bandwidth. So one of the things you can argue is that, suppose you look at this slot, and at about this time, already 1 and 2 knew that the other was also sending. So, for instance, let's say this slot was just randomly 10 milliseconds, the whole slot's at 10 milliseconds. Then after about 1 millisecond, you start getting signals from the other side saying that they're sending too, and you already know that you're doomed, but the protocol says you keep sending. Okay? So the protocol is very simple. So you send for 10 milliseconds, and then you see if it got there or not. If you knew that you were done already, somebody was sending, doesn't matter. You still lose the entire 10 milliseconds. So we could have this potential to do better, and there's the need for clock synchronization, which is not non-trivial thing. Okay. Any questions? So this protocol, I don't think it's that popular right now. Well, I'm not sure if it's completely academic either. It is in use, but it's not a major dominant protocol. I don't have a good answer to how widely it is used and where it is used.
So actually, when it first set up, it was actually deployed.
Yeah.
And it is working. I don't know how. I think it's working for a couple of years before they take it down because the newer technology is developed.
Right. And I guess one of the things that happens is that pieces of these protocols move into real-life protocols, and in entirety, it may not be that common. So yes, there's more what? Constant? More const.